All right, good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, February 8th here at 10:45 a.m. on a rainy February day, if you can believe it, and the sun's just starting to peek out. Want to start by thanking all of you that administer both Nordic and Alpine ski teams for all your work and what you've provided them, and Charlie's leadership here from our office. I am told that we have state qualifiers in Nordic skiing. And great job by his leadership. You'll hear more about that as well. Also, want to acknowledge our National Girls and Women in Sports Day yesterday. Our presence was known down at the Minnesota History Center as well with others. Great day yesterday in celebrating all involved in our sports. Also, our lead liaisons, we continue to thank them for their work. You'll hear about it here today on items that they offered and some input they were able to provide as well. Just a reminder that we're into the tournament season here. We have one act play today and tomorrow. And just want to acknowledge our AAA award winners. It's fun to see those out on social media. If you're here and if you're in a school that hasn't nominated those and their successes in the AAA award, we encourage you to engage in that process, acknowledge your boys and girls in those awards in future years as well. Other than that, we have a full agenda here today. Again, much of this from our board meeting and input from our liaisons on our Tuesday meetings as well. We're going to go ahead and move forward into some of those board meeting reviews. Important items that occurred. We had activity advisory proposals that were approved. This shouldn't be the first time that that you've heard this, but football did get their quarterfinal seating approved. This was a proposal, the 1 and the 4 from the south versus the 1 through the 4 in the north. They'll cross over into the semifinals to advance on to the Prep Bowl. Great job by Phil in working with soccer advisory. When we have suspended games, we do not have to start those contests over, I would say is the gist of that change. And then volleyball seating, you're going to see our sports that did propose seating 1 to 8. Girls volleyball did do so. That was approved at the board meeting. And then for the 25-26 school year, again, in our new round of competitive section placement, we did approve girls tennis for 3 classes. And the makeup of those 3 classes will be a third, and a third of each of those classes. So each of our member schools that offer tennis and those teams, that's how they will be split. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to talk about more items that were discussed and also action items from the board. Eric?
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. Thanks again so much for all of your work. This is a really busy time in the winter season, and I know you've had seasons continuing on for some time. So really appreciate all the work that's happening there. Our board brought to the table a request to say, how can we better assist our schools in supervision at state tournaments? And what else can we do? So you are very likely aware that there is a 4-ticket allotment for administrators and others for teams that qualify to the state tournament, recognizing larger crowds and what's required to be able to manage those crowds through our finance committee and then on to the full board. There was an approval to grow the number of supervision tickets from 4 to 8 this year for the state tournament, and that applies to all classes, both boys and girls basketball. So if you are fortunate enough to have your school progress on to the state tournament, look for those within basketball and hockey and find those folks that our students and others respond well to. We know the value of having faces and voices that our students and other spectators respect and know, and it just leads to better outcomes. So I know you're doing lots at your schools. Continue to do that, please, as we finish out our regular season and head into section and state tournaments. We appreciate the board's support to say there's more that we can do for our schools, and we're going to continue to look at that. And really the goal here is to use this as a test to see how impactful is that, and then what else and where else should we maybe look to try to increase those numbers a little bit. In a very straightforward conference placement assignment, the board approved the recommendation of the great work of the committee that recommended Detroit Lakes go to Central Lakes Conference. they are already in conversations around schedules and putting things together. So that is great to see. Appreciate everyone involved in that process to get to that point. And then finally, the Adoption of Programs Task Force. We think that they have probably reached the end of their work. This is the third chapter of work that they've done. The first one was the creation of the emerging status. The second one was to write policy around presenting partnerships. And now they have provided a draft model policy on sunsetting of programs from the Minnesota State High School League. We know that different activities get new followers and others may drift away. And so we now have a potential language for all three of those scenarios. Somebody coming in as a presenting partner, or being new to the league, and then also if we're going to exit to the league. And the intent is never to have a program go away, but perhaps there's other leadership that fit better for something that may not be across the entire state. So maybe a little longer, Bob, but anything I missed there?
No, great job. I think we can move forward into the conversation around ninth grade governance.
Sounds good. So ninth grade governance, we've brought this forward in terms of, helping people understand at our area meetings across the state. We've also had it at MSBA for our school board members. I've talked with principals at MASSP, future conversations with our ADs at the state conference when we get together here at the end of March, and also conversations with superintendents when we talk about MASA's conference coming later. We brought a draft timeline to the board to say, if this were to go through, we believe that the earliest it could be implemented would be the fall of 25, and we may or may not be able to meet that timeline. But if we were going to, here are some of the major steps that would be needed to make this happen. There are constitutional aspects that would be part of it. Constitution is changed by a member vote, and that would be the instigation of making change. If that were to happen this coming fall, that would then mean that we would spend a lot of time with our board looking at the impacted policies and looking to approve the changes that are required to change from a 10-12 to a 9-12 organization. Obviously, there are bylaws that are also impacted, and our board would be identifying those with language that would then be forwarded to the rep assembly. So again, as you look at it, three major steps that include a member school vote, board work on policies, and representative work on bylaws. If that were to all go forward, and folks were generally in agreement that we were going to make this change, we would have communication and updated constitution, bylaws, and policies out by July. And again, that implementation could start as soon as the fall of 25. So the league continues to work on that. We'll continue to communicate. Things like task forces and study groups would likely be a part of this process to really dig in and better understand what is impacted and where that all lies within the language that we have. And so that might be something where we make a call out to folks to say, would you like to be part of this process at a deeper level? Please consider that if we do reach out. Bob, what have I missed on that slide?
No, really, again, well done, Eric. I did see pens and pencils moving on notebooks when you say fall of 25 as a target date. I think for ninth grade governance, there will be many conversations that will occur. I'm hearing a constitutional vote by our membership, as well as we'll have other opportunities to discuss this, including our rep assembly. I believe, Eric, is what I've heard. A lot of work to do in the next year, yet all signs say go or move forward when it comes to bringing ninth grade under our governance. All right, we're going to move forward. We touched a little bit that we're into our tournament season here for the winter. We have dance, next week as well, as our skiing's coming up here. And along with that come behavior expectations. One of the things we discussed with our liaisons was really the great feedback that they have and the business that they conduct within their schools and the expectations around behavior. And Charlie's going to talk about board conversation and also a new document resource that was approved at the board level. Charlie.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. And the timeliness is certainly evident here, as you mentioned, heading into postseason. But this document, after being thoroughly reviewed by our liaisons, as you said, but also it's important to note that our principals, AD, and education advisories all took some time to review this, as well as the league student advisory and leadership team. And so after review and comment and conversation with all of those groups, our board of directors did approve this here last week at the February meeting. And this policy is really a consolidation, of two existing behavior expectations resources. The 2005 minimal behavior expectations, that list of behaviors that is often buried in the rules and policies document, but also the 2022-23 behavior expectations, that work that came out of the Together We Make a Difference work from that school year. This resource contains 3 sections. The first is an introduction that's based in the league's founding purposes and beliefs. And it also includes support from Bylaw 409, which clearly states that schools are responsible for the behavior of their people when it comes to contests. Second, the behavior expectations, the second section, behavior expectations that were created, really a 30,000-foot view of how we should treat each other in and around our contests. And then finally, third, and an area that received an update and refresh, a list of specific requirements of attendees. As we had conversations with our various groups, including our liaisons, we talked about things like, what does it mean to demonstrate respect for the flag and the anthem? How might this mean different things to different people? And we talked about how sitting or kneeling is a protected right, and how that might look versus actually disrupting the contest in some way during this time. As a side note, we do have a national anthem resource that's tucked into your dashboards that can help you as you think about planning ahead for the remainder of your seasons here. Additionally, we had conversations about clothing that covers the torso and how removing language like the entire torso might give ADs and school administrators the flexibility they need to manage these behaviors that is more consistent with their own school dress code and the fashion trends that they see in their own buildings. And finally, we added the language about the prohibition of drones, which is now a regular season requirement. That's long been a postseason requirement, but we're going to, with the inclusion here, include that as part of our regular season requirements of attendees, And then know that this document is going to live in the rules and policies of each of our activities. Beginning with the next school year in 24-25, it will be in the printed version of the handbook. And in the interim, you can find it on our governance documents page, of our website. And in addition, you'll hear a little bit more about our toolkits later on in today's lead meeting. But this information and these resources can also be found in those toolkits. So use this document, the language within, to create the expectations for your school and community, and hold them accountable to it. The success of our winter seasons requires it. And with that, Bob, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, great job, Charlie. I want to acknowledge Lisa's work in this document, as well as Laura's, on really melding these expectations together. And at a minimum, for those of you that will be in attendance at our tournaments or have teams participating, know that these will be the expectations of community members as well as those participating. We're going to move forward and continue the conversation around boys volleyball. Lisa continues to do work with that group, and Lisa, walk us through where we're at with boys volleyball.
Thanks, Bob. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank each of you who have asked questions and really good thoughts as we work through this emerging status season for boys volleyball. The 2023-24 season is going to be managed by the Minnesota Boys Volleyball Association. Really good information on their website for those schools that are participating in that. The latest date they recommend to start preseason practice is April 1st, and typically their competition will begin April 8th for those of you who are participating in that. They are going to be responsible for the schedule, season length, and the officials this year. things to remember as you are a member school. If you chose to be a member school for the 23-24 season, we talked some about emerging status policy language. Students will need to register with your programs. This will include that pre-participation physical, and they must be fully eligible. Bylaws 100 and 200 will be applicable. We will also provide that catastrophic medical accident and concussion insurance for those students who participate in member school programs. Coaches must meet the education requirements, as well as your head coaches need to be certified. I know there are some head coaches certification classes still happening, and checking on your dashboard for those would be really important. Officials must be Minnesota State High School League eligible officials. Jason is doing great work with the assigners to ensure that they have our information to ensure that we can work through this process. We are planning for the 24-25 season, and we have heard from many of you that you are eager to get that information as you like to start planning early, and we appreciate that greatly. Competitive section placement will happen in March. We did send out a survey through the update last week, and we will send it again. We are asking all of our member schools to complete this survey, even if it is as simple as answering the first question that you won't be having boys volleyball, then we will be able to judge and have a good gauge as we begin that competitive section placement process. And our advisory committee, thank you to each of you who are on that and have spent good time thinking about the start date and postseason dates. We had a meeting this morning again, and I appreciate the time and effort of those that are on that. And we will be hopefully bringing something to the board in the near future for those start date and postseason dates. Those are the things I have for boys volleyball right now, Bob. Turning it back to you.
Yeah, great job, Lisa. And again, we hope that this assists you to this year feels like a hybrid season as we transition into our full governance for next year. We look forward to those teams doing so in boys volleyball. We're going to head into really, this is intended for the spring season, this next slide. As we're into the 50s in many parts of our state, we would begin playing spring sports if we could, yet we can't, as we know, due to our calendar. That being said, this is a reminder, and we always appreciate those of you that are live in attendance with us on these meetings. Also knowing that many of you will take this in the recording and send it on. This would be a good one to send on to your spring coaches, as we have athletes out participating in what looks like their spring sports right now. They may be captain's practices and or open gyms, but please remember what these are intended for and what they're not intended for, and what you can and cannot do in these. As we get new shiny facilities like we have here in the South Metro that are specific for baseball, they have invited many of the local teams to do a captain's practice into their facilities. Yet if coaches that have been hired or with the intent to hire or are current employees of our member schools, they should not be there. They should not be doing anything directing what would look like a captain's practice. That is very specific in that third bullet under a captain's practice. Said differently, no school employees should have any involvement in your captain's practices. As we're putting items out on social media, as your athletes tend to gather and spontaneously interact in a sport, again, that should not be directed by your school employees. With that being said, I'm going to jump off of my soapbox there and turn it over to Phil for us with quick takes and then for our checklist. Quick, Phil.
Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate it. We're going to touch on a few things here that you have access to as we wind down our meeting. So quick takes on this. We've got toolkits listed first. These are just resources that we have compiled for you that are all in one simple place on your dashboard. So currently there's 3 of those available and they center around behavior expectations, recruiting and retaining officials, and there's a file in there with different MSHSL logos that you can utilize for your school events or section events or anything like that. You have access to those there. feedback on these are welcomed, and it's really valuable for us. And so the people that really use these seem to get back to us and say, hey, could you add this? Or, oh, this would be helpful if it was here, or something like that. This is an area for you to do that. So be in communication with us if that is the case, and please take advantage of those. The Women's Coaching Symposium, that is April 19th at the University of Minnesota. Registration open for that on February 1st. And if you are interested in sharing that with your women's coaches, register now, because that will sell out from everything that I get from researching it and talking to people that have been a part of it in the past. It will sell out. There's no cutoff date for it, but registration is open now currently. So please take advantage of that. It's been an awesome and powerful event. Nordic Ski tournament schedule, state tournament schedule. Weather's forced some scheduling adjustments, I would say, but the folks here in our office and our sections and everyone have done a great job of figuring out the best way to get things done. All of the scheduling and tournament information has been updated and is available on your dashboard or the activity page for Nordic Ski. So all of that stuff is there, and some gratitude and a quick shout out needs to go to Giants Ridge for accommodating our event up there. And again, as Bob had mentioned earlier in the lead meeting, kudos to Charlie and all the work that him and his team has put forth to make this all happen. So that's our Nordic Ski. Everything is updated on the site. Utilize those for any questions that you have first before reaching out to us or Charlie and his team for that tournament. As we hop into our checklist here, I've got a number of items, and I'm going to roll through these a little quickly. So if you go back and you utilize the recording, please do that. But all of these things are great reminders here as we pop into things. Lisa talked a little bit about our boys volleyball survey. Again, this is for all schools to fill out, and this is going to help with several different things, including our competitive section placement, different things around who is doing co-ops and stuff like that. This is about a 30 to 60 second survey. So go ahead and hop in there and do that. It will be valuable for I would say the initial onset and health of boys volleyball in the state of Minnesota. So hop on there and do that. It was sent out in the updates last week. It will be sent out this week to my knowledge. And then I believe Laura is also putting a direct button on your dashboard so you can have access to that quick survey. Member school participation numbers. This is just a reminder of those of you that keep track of that on a seasonal basis as we're starting to round out winter and get into our winter tournaments. It's a great time to work on that so that there's less work for you to do as the school year ends up and the MSHSL is requesting those participation numbers from you at a school or district level. Charlie talked a little bit about our behavior expectations. Again, that is something that you can find in our dashboard. You can find those in our governance handbook and governance page on the MSHSL site, but really tap into those things and utilize those as they're there for a tool for your school and your school district to utilize on setting expectation. Presidential primary and caucus dates, they're listed there. Get in front of that. If there's any scheduling things, which really at this point shouldn't be, but check your dates, double check them, triple check them, make sure there's no conflicts. And if there are, get in front of them right now while you still have a handful of weeks. Submitting your spring break trips approvals. This is a little bit of a process, so make sure that you're in front of that as well, talking about connecting with your school board to make sure you get approval before submitting anything to the MSHSL. Quick note on hockey helmets. They are to be worn as the manufacturer specified them, as they were intended. So in this case, I think that I see Bob smile over there is keeping the ear pads in there. So we're not, I think that's the trend right now to get the hockey hair going. If you got to take pads out and you alter the equipment, that's not the manufacturer's specification for said equipment. So go ahead and make sure your kids are in line with that. Summer waivers are up on your dashboard. Quick, very easy and convenient button, thanks to Laura Backentune in her office. Again, this is one of those things that if you take care of on a season-by-season basis, you're in front of it for at the end of the school year, and it's not a huge rush of things that you've got to knock out as an AD as you're trying to wind out your school year. Hopping in front of your winter postseason stuff. This is everything's going to come to a head and get moving really quick here. Talking about making sure that your students are fully eligible, knowing and understanding some of the differences in between those 200 bylaws and what it looks like for you for postseason play. One of the bigger ones for me is making sure that your coaches are have completed all of their coaches requirements, and they're actually a legal coach to be there on the sideline or interacting with your student athletes during that contest or those contests that you're a part of in the state tournament. And then lastly, I'm going to spend a quick minute on a little bit of promotion about the MNI AAA conference that's held in St. Cloud annually. This is a huge event for especially new ADs. Veteran ADs know the value in being around the MNI AAA. Personally, myself, along with all the other staff at the MSHSL, have been able to tap into that as a resource during their time as ADs. And it especially is crucial for those new ADs that are out there. It's not just a lifeline to other athletic directors and a help of understanding on how to interact with other entities like the MSHSL and the other support entities that are there, but it's really a crucial part for our new ADs to really grasp what their job entails and how to navigate it and have some longevity. So really promote this to within your conference meetings or any region meetings you have. Be talking about this. And I've also talked with Laura McIntoon about getting a direct link from our site to the MNI AAA registration so you can make it convenient for you. So just have that on your radar, as that's going to be popping up soon as well. A handful of things there, folks. If you're on here, if you're confused, go back and check it out. But there's a ton of stuff here as we're moving into our postseason play and be in communication and be in front of these things. Thanks a lot, Bob.
Good, great job on about a 4-minute checklist. I love hearing Phil talk about hockey helmets and ear guards and coaches' requirements. And when it comes to protective equipment, again, please do not alter any equipment. That is difficult, especially when we get into postseason. And the last thing we want is our coaches celebrating a section championship only to be told they're not eligible to coach in postseason. So make sure when we get into our tournaments, all those things are taken care of. This is going to conclude our lead meeting for this week. We'll see you at a tournament soon. Thank you.